Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. All goes to our Guru Maharaj. Today Guru Maharaj is not available to give class, so I requested Sridevi Mataji. So Hare Krishna, Sridevi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving us this class in a short notice. Thank you so much. Mataji is going to enlighten us on the topic of glories of the holy name, Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto. Sorry, I forgot the first number. So Mataji, will you share the screen? Thank you so much. You can take over, Mataji. Mataji, you are on mute, Mataji.
Oh, I apologize. I've been talking all this time. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our beloved Gurudev. All glories to all the wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So today I thought it would be nice to speak about the glories of the holy name, because every 2 or 3 weeks, Guru Maharaj likes us to discuss this topic. And I decided to speak on this pastime of Ajamil. I've chosen this particular verse from this particular chapter. It's from the 6th canto, chapter 2. And I would like us to read these translations first and then get to the verse. So I'll begin with the invocation prayers. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, before we begin, let me talk a little bit about this pastime of Ajamil, just to give you a context, just to give you a background. Who was this Ajamil? Ajamil actually was a very qualified young Brahmana man who was very nicely raised by his father and taught all the Vedic hymns, all the Vedic pujas, who was well versed in the Vedic scriptures, who had been trained very nicely as a Brahmin. And he grew up into a fine young man who was gentle, self-controlled, following all the Vedic practices nicely. One day, his father sent him out into the forest to collect some fruits, herbs, some flowers for worship. And as he was coming out after collecting all that paraphernalia, he happened to see a Shudra and a prostitute. Now, the state of these two beings, they were intoxicated. They were drunk. And the Shudra was shamelessly embracing and kissing this prostitute. This prostitute was also completely drunk. Their clothes were in disarray. And when he saw them embracing, all his lusty desires awoke in his heart. And even after coming home, he just could not forget what he had seen. Even though he was married to a very chaste, very beautiful wife, he began to meditate constantly on that Shudrani, the prostitute woman he had seen. Very cleverly, he thought, he brought her into his house as a maidservant. And once he brought her in as a maidservant, he began to have connection with her, and very soon he gave up all his Brahmanical qualities, all his Brahmanical lifestyle, and took to enjoying himself with this prostitute. Now, because of his low connection with this prostitute, he lost all his good qualities. And in fact, he became very debauched. He became very immoral. He started plundering, looting, cheating, gambling, doing all kinds of things because he wanted to maintain this prostitute very nicely. And so he started doing all kinds of abominable things in order to gain money just to keep this prostitute happy. And he had one child after another with her. He had 10 children in all. And this continued for a very long time, until finally his 10th son, a little child whom he named Narayan, was born. By this time, our hero is 88 years old. He was very old by this time. But he was very fond of this little baby boy, crawling all over the place. Every time he sat down to eat food, he would call that little baby boy. He would give him some food from his plate. Every time he drank something, he would call his son, Narayan, come and drink something with me, like this. He was very attached to that little baby boy, was constantly calling out to his little son. And one day, he was very ill, and he was on his deathbed, actually. When he was dying, he saw the Yamadutas, and the sight was so fearful. He was filled with such anxiety that he began calling out his son, Narayan, Narayan. And immediately the Yamadutas who were there and who were trying to take his soul out of his body and take it to Yamaraj was stopped by the Vishnu Dutas coming there. These were 4 Vishnu Dutas, very effulgent, very beautiful, with yellow silken garments, with helmets, with armlets, with amulets, with golden necklaces and shining, very effulgent, with a mace, conch shell, club, lotus, just like Lord Vishnu, because the residents of Vaikuntha Loka are just like Lord Vishnu, 4-armed forms. And there were 4 of them, and they stopped the Yamadutas. He said, no way, you cannot take away this man's soul. He has chanted the name of the Lord. And so he has become free of all sins, not just of this lifetime, but of thousands of lifetimes. How was this miracle possible? It was because he chanted the name of the Lord offenselessly. Though it was not pure chanting, he had no material motives. He was just helplessly calling out to his son, but as he called out to his son, he actually remembered the Lord. And so the Vishnu Duta said, no way, you cannot take him. And this whole chapter then further describes the glories of the holy name, because the holy name is non-different from Krishna. The name of Krishna and Krishna are the same, because God is absolute, and therefore his name is all-powerful, the same as he is. So now I will share the screen and we will read just the translations of 13, 14, and 15. And then I will talk a little bit about verse number 15. You can share screen and you can see. Can you all see what's there?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So here we are. Everyone with me so far? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, very good. At this time of death, this Ajamil helplessly and very loudly chanted the name of the Lord, Narayan. That chanting alone has already freed him from the reactions of all sinful life. Therefore, O servants of Yamaraj, do not try to take him to your master for punishment in hellish conditions. So this is the Vishnu Dutas telling the Yamadutas. And then they explain, one who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, jokingly, for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures. In text 15, which is what we are going to talk on a little bit more, if one chants the holy name of Hari and then dies because of an accidental misfortune, such as falling from the top of a house, slipping and suffering broken bones while traveling on the road, being bitten by a serpent, being afflicted with pain and high fever, or being injured by a weapon, one is immediately absolved from having to enter hellish life, even though he is sinful. So let's see. Let me go on to, let me click on verse number 15, which is what we're going to talk about. Can everybody see the verse?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, very good. So it goes like this. Patita skalito bhagna sandashtas tapta ahataha haririti avashenaha umanarhati yatanaha. Translation: if one chants the holy name of Hari and then dies because of an accidental misfortune, such as falling from the top of a house, slipping and suffering broken bones while traveling on the road, being bitten by a serpent, being afflicted with pain and high fever, or being injured by a weapon, one is immediately absolved from having to enter hellish life, even though he is sinful. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 8.6, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tajjante Kalevaram Tam Tam Evaiti Kaunteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. If one practices chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, he is naturally expected to chant Hare Krishna when he meets with some accident. Even without such practice, however, if one somehow or other chants the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, when he meets with an accident and dies, he will be saved from hellish life after death. So we see over here how powerful the holy name of the Lord is. And here, all the various ways one can possibly meet with that one's end, suddenly, untimely, through accident, through being bitten by a serpent, through high fever, falling from the top of a building, accident on the road, everything is described. And many times we see that devotees ask this question. They say, oh, these devotees died in an accident. What will happen to them? Oh, this devotee met with, an untimely death. What will happen to him or her? But here, how the Shastra is describing is so perfect that one who is in Krishna consciousness, one who has been practicing chanting the holy name of the Lord, it is very natural, isn't it? As devotees, we just, sometimes we just are rushing from one place to another, and suddenly a devotee comes in front and we say, oh, Krishna, isn't it? Or we open the door, not expecting that someone is going to come in, and then we say, oh, Krishna. Or we stub our toe and we say, oh, Krishna. It is very natural for a devotee to immediately take the name of the Lord. So anyone who has been practicing Krishna consciousness, even for a little time, whatever it is, whatever the situation, he or she will remember Krishna and take the name of Krishna, whatever difficulties may be there. So we should not worry whether it's by some accident or some arrangement, how the end will come. We should not worry about that. This is beautifully illustrated. As I was thinking about this verse, I was remembering this particular verse in Bhagavad Gita, where Srila Prabhupada is directly answering this question that many devotees have. How will the end come? And how will I remember Krishna? So I'm going to share that with you in a second. That is verse number 827 from Bhagavad Gita. And I will put it up on the screen right now because it is such an instructive verse and I would like to share it with you. So it goes like this. Naite Shriti Parthi Janani Yogi Muyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. Translation: although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjun, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Purport, as Srila Prabhupada is describing, Krishna is here advising Arjun. He should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. He should be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service. And this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word yoga yukta is particularly significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatarham Upayunjataha. One should be unattached to material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. This is very important to understand, that there is such confidence when Srila Prabhupada writes this. He says, success is sure for the rigid practitioner. This is also there in a purport in the Bhagavad Gita. So after I read this particular verse and the purport, I was thinking, I think I want to quote that one also, because it is so powerful for us to have faith and to have complete conviction that by following this path, we will be completely protected and we will be able to reap the results of pure devotional service to Krishna. This is Bhagavad Gita 6:24. It goes like this. Sanishchayena yuktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams yaktva sarvan asheshataha manasaivan manasaivendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. Translation: one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Purport: the yoga practitioner should be determined and should patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure of success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged if there's any delay in the attainment of success. And see these golden words here. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner. How much assurance Prabhupada is giving us. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha nishchaya dhairya tat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte sharbir bhakti prasiddhyati. One can execute the process of Bhakti Yoga successfully with full-hearted enthusiasm, perseverance, and determination by following the prescribed duties in the association of devotees and by engaging completely in activities of goodness. Upadeshamrita number 3. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. So we know this little story, and I will just relate it briefly so that I'm not just reading and reading. So I'll read the last 2 lines. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially Bhakti Yoga, may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help, for God helps those who help themselves. So this little sparrow example is being given. This little sparrow, she had laid her eggs on the edge of the ocean, and the waves of the ocean washed away her eggs. When she came back, she looked around and her baby eggs were nowhere to be seen. So she asked the ocean, "You have taken away my eggs, give them back to me," because they were her baby birds. And the ocean didn't even bother to answer. The ocean's waves are so mighty and the ocean is so mighty. So this little mother bird was so upset. She decided to dry up the ocean with her beak. She said, "I'm going to dry up this ocean till I find my eggs. I won't give up." So she started sipping little sips of water in her beak and spitting it out over the sand. And she said, "This is the way I'm going to empty the ocean and get my eggs back." Imagine a little sparrow challenging a mighty ocean like that. But she wanted to get her eggs back, and she was determined. Now, hearing her little sister, her efforts to get her eggs back, because the bird kingdom started relaying this information to all the other birds, the word reached mighty Garud, the mighty eagle Garud, the eagle carrier of Lord Vishnu. And when he heard this, he was so moved, he decided to come and help. So he came and he told the ocean, return her eggs. And when the ocean saw mighty Garuda over there, immediately he returned the eggs to the baby, the baby bird eggs to the mother sparrow. So what Srila Prabhupada is saying here is one must be very determined. And then mighty forces will come to your aid, as the saying goes. So we should always take courage from the words of the scriptures. We should take courage from the personal example of Srila Prabhupada at the age of 70 years to come out on a ship, knowing no one, having no connections, having no money, and having 2 heart attacks on the way would be enough to turn anyone around and say, I'm going back home, I'm not doing this. But Srila Prabhupada never gave up. There was obstacle after obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. It was no picnic. On the other hand, every time he tried something, an obstacle would come up. He started writing, his typewriter was stolen. So many things. His Srimad Bhagavatam copy was stolen. So many things happened one after. No proper place to stay, no proper food to eat, no one to help. Do your own cooking and laundry and move from place to place without anyone's help. It was such a difficult time for an old man, that too in the cold of New York. He had never seen snow before. Can you imagine? And these are the difficulties Srila Prabhupada faced simply for us to have Krishna consciousness. So when we think of Srila Prabhupada and all the troubles he faced, our troubles become very small, isn't it? What do you think? Yes? So we can take courage from all these examples in the scriptures and of our own Srila Prabhupada and our own spiritual masters, the first generation of disciples, who also took great pains and underwent great sufferings to establish this movement everywhere in the world. It was not easy. But then Krishna consciousness and easy life go ill together, says Prabhupada. When we want to become Krishna conscious, we have to be prepared to face great hardships and to constantly be struggling against the material energy, because she's always trying to push us back. But because we're trying and we're trying to please Krishna, Krishna will help. And Krishna says, whoever remembers me, whatever state of being he attains at the time of death, that he will attain without fail. I'm going to share that also because I think those 2 verses are so important. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, 8.5. I'm going to read out 8.5 and 8.6 to you because they are so powerful. See, Krishna is promising this. Antakale cha mami va smaran mukva kalevaram ya prayati samat bhavam yati nastyatra samshayaha. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. See? So immediately Krishna is saying, at once he will attain my nature. So at the end of life, remembering Krishna becomes extremely important. So Srila Prabhupada says, anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised one be more tolerant than a tree. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. And the very next verse is very similar, where Krishna says, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state will attain without fail. So then, here in the last few lines, what does Srila Prabhupada write? If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. This will help one to be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendently absorbed in Krishna's service, his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, and not material. Haribol! Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. So, see the result that Ajamil got, and I will try to pull up that for you. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So, Ajamil, all his life, he was completely sinful. The first period of life, he was very pure, he was very good devotee, he was Brahminical, but he gave up all that and engaged in so many sinful activities for the next 60 to 70 years of his life. But by the arrangement of the Lord, he had named his son Narayan. And simply by taking the name of the Lord, he was freed of all sinful reactions. So this is what the Vishnu Dutas are saying. Simply by once chanting the holy name of Narayan, this Brahmana has become free from the reactions of sinful life. Indeed, he has been free not only from the sins of this life, but from the sins of many, many thousands of other lives. He has already undergone true atonement for all his sinful actions. If one atones according to the directions of the Shastras, one does not actually become free from sinful reactions. But if one chants the holy name of the Lord, even a glimpse of such chanting can immediately free one from all sins. Chanting the glories of the Lord's holy name awakens all good fortune. Therefore, there is no doubt that Ajamil, being completely free from all sinful reactions, should not be punished by Yamaraj. So we see over here how powerful is the holy name of the Lord, and how powerful it is when we are constantly absorbed in the service of the Lord. And therefore we encourage everybody. This Hare Krishna movement has been brought. Why? To help people chant the holy name of the Lord, engage themselves in devotional service, rid themselves of all sinful reactions by keeping themselves pure. How do we keep ourselves pure? We refrain from the 4 sinful activities: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and engaging in the service of the Lord. This is the process. And by constantly being engaged like this, our consciousness will slowly become detached from this material world and attached to Krishna's world, which is where we are actually meant to be. We are actually belonging to the spiritual world. We don't even belong here. We have nothing to do with this material energy. We are forced to interact with the material energy because we have taken on this material body. This material body means diseased condition of life. So how to get rid of this material disease, this bhavarog? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare This is the process of beginning our devotional service, beginning our devotional life. Srila Prabhupada said the tongue has two businesses, taking Krishna Prasadam and chanting Hare Krishna. Because the holy name of the Lord is all purified, we will be able to get rid of all the sinful reactions, no matter how many millions of lifetimes, and we will be able to get rid of prarabdha karma, bijam, kutam, in the dormant stage, in the active stage, we are suffering. In this particular lifetime, we are simply suffering the reactions of all the previous lifetimes. So we have some amount of enjoyment, we have some amount of suffering according to whatever acts and deeds we have performed in previous lifetime. But by engaging in devotion service, we can nullify everything and it can become our karma. That means no more reactive reactions coming, whether good or bad. So we don't have to take birth again and again, and we can remember Krishna and go back to Krishna. You may say, why I shouldn't perform good deeds? I will open charitable hospitals, I will open old age homes, I will open orphanages, I will start water fountains, I will start doing good in the world, I'll open hospital, I'll do this, I'll do that. If you do all those things, but it is without Krishna consciousness, you will have to take birth again to enjoy whatever good karma that will come as a result of that. Some people say, oh, why I shouldn't do all these things? We are not saying don't do all these things. What we are saying is do it as a service to Krishna. For example, Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Meera Road, it's a hospital. It's been opened by devotee doctors. We are not against this. We want to use everything we have in Krishna's service. Radhanath Maharaj has started an orphanage. It's not that Krishna consciousness is divorced from day-to-day dealings or day-to-day life. In fact, Krishna consciousness is completely practical life and applicable every day to all the things we do, because then we will be able to live our lives in Krishna consciousness, remember Krishna all the time, and then whenever the time comes when we have to leave the body, we just go back to Krishna. No more coming back into this material world, which is the aim of this Krishna consciousness movement. What is the aim of this Krishna consciousness movement? What are the four problems? Birth, disease, old age, and death. And we have done this repeatedly, so many millions of lifetimes. So we want to go back to Krishna, where we originally belong. We have fallen from the spiritual world and we have come over here. So in order to regain our position in the spiritual world, in order to qualify to go back to the spiritual world, we have to become spiritual now. So by practicing Krishna consciousness, we can hope that we will be purified and we will be qualified to go back home to Krishna, because we would have come back to our original constitutional position, which is pure, loving servant of Krishna. That is our only identity. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. Be clean of all different designations, because you have changed so many designations. My dear spirit soul, believe me, we have gone through so many lifetimes in so many different dresses. I am in an Indian lady's body in this lifetime, but who knows where I was in previous lifetime, and who knows where I will be next lifetime if I don't watch out. So one day I'm Indian woman, next day American man, third day China woman, fourth day Vietnamese man, fifth day Norwegian woman, and so on and so on and so on. And Srila Prabhupada says we have gone through all the 8 million species of life, 8,400,000 species, because even among the humans, there are so many uncivilized forms, aborigine forms, and so on. So luckily, in this lifetime, we have come to the human form of life. Not only that, we have come in touch with Krishna consciousness. Ramanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. After wandering for millions of lifetimes up and down the Ferris wheel of existence, finally, we have received the mercy of the bona fide spiritual master, the pure representative of Krishna in this material world, who has planted the seed of devotional service in our heart. How fortunate we are. And by nurturing that seed, by watering that seed nicely, by hearing, by chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. All the 9 processes of devotional service, by engaging in 1, in 2, in all, in some, whatever we choose, we start our devotional service like that. And then our Bhakti Lata Beej, or devotional creeper, starts taking firm root, grows stronger and stronger and stronger, and finally reaches the lotus feet of Krishna all the way up in the spiritual world. And we become firm and fixed. We reach the stage of Nishtha, and then we can help others because we have become firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness ourselves. So we want to try to form our devotion, to become fixed in our devotional service and be able to help others, because Srila Prabhupada said, you have become fortunate. Now go and make others fortunate. Help the unfortunate to become fortunate. So we must consider ourselves extremely fortunate, my dear spirit souls. We are so blessed that we have come to Krishna consciousness and we have come to know what is what. How many people even know they're not this body, that they're eternal spirit souls? They're struggling so much in the sea of ignorance, just swimming endlessly, trying to find a little gratification here and there, trying to make some adjustment here and there. And what is the end result? Another body, because at the time of death, you won't remember Krishna, you have to take birth again. So we want to help as many people as possible. We want to become firm in our faith, in our practice, in our Krishna consciousness, so that we are not shaken under any condition. And then we want to be helpful to others, because this is the duty of everyone. Lord Chaitanya wants this. Yare dekha tare kaha, Krishna upadesh. In fact, the Lord is pleading with everybody. I am the only gardener. How will I distribute all these fruits? Everyone, please taste this fruit. See the sweetness of this fruit and then distribute it. How can I do this job alone? Of course, God can do anything, but He's just taking the role of a humble gardener who cannot do it alone. And He's asking us to help Him. Imagine, God is pleading with us. Please help me. Such a humble position. So we can all try in our own small, humble way. We can practice at whatever level we are. It's fine. We can carry on. And as we become more and more firm in our faith and more filled with conviction, we can then start thinking of helping others. Even if we are not very firm or fixed, whatever level we are, we can try to help others. We can give prasadam, we can give books, we can talk about Krishna. Yare dekha tare kaha, Krishna upadesh. Whomever you meet, tell them about Krishna. What else is there to talk about? Krishna is so sweet, isn't it? It's so wonderful to talk about Krishna, how beautiful he is, his beautiful pastimes, his beautiful gopis, the beautiful spiritual world. Isn't that wonderful? And we are so lucky. We have all this knowledge. We have these beautiful deities. We have beautiful books. We have wonderful prasadam. So we are so blessed. And we should take courage from all the things that the Shastra has told us and become fixed in our Krishna consciousness so we can help everyone. So thank you all for listening so patiently. We will open up for discussions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for the wonderful class, reminding us again about the importance of holy name and going through the verses. Thank you so much, Mataji. Dear devotees, if you have any questions. Dear
thank
devotees,
you for all for listening so patiently, and thank you, Srimati, for being patient with me.
No, Mataji. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances.
All glories to
Srila
Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
All glories to Guru Maharaj. All glories to all of the Vaishnavas. I have reflections on what you were saying. And when you were talking about the beautiful example of the little sparrow up against the mighty ocean, and sometimes that can feel like the little us up against the mighty Maya. But
Right.
the difference is that little sparrow was alone, all alone, and despite the whole bird community found out what they were doing, it was only Garudaji that stepped in. Whereas we have Guru Maharaj holding one hand, we have Srila Prabhupada holding one hand, we have all of the great acharyas supporting us, we have this beautiful ISKCON family of devotees always ready to help. And we even have Krishna himself, who's always ready to reciprocate 1,000,000 times over for any tiny pieces of service that we've done. So we're actually 1,000,000 times better, in a better position than the poor little sparrow that was all alone. So really, we have no excuse but to try our hardest and to try with all of our effort. And
Right.
the other reflection I had was when you were talking about Ajamil, and I felt that he must have, in his previous life, he must have been a great devotee. I don't know the backstory, maybe you do, but I feel he must have been a great devotee, but for some reason or other, he had to come back and he was given a life in a nice Brahmin family. And because he was a nice devotee, maybe in the beginning of this life and maybe in who knows how many previous lives, the Lord reciprocated in not letting him fall down too much and making sure that he remembered the holy name in some way or other at the end of his life.
That is true. That is true. Because of his previous, pious life, he took birth in a good family. He had good training. But again, because of his previous life, it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam that because of his past, he again got attracted to that prostitute, again fell into bad ways. So bad association is very, very powerful. And then he had to go through all that, and he had to go through the fear and terror of seeing the Yamadutas to finally come to his senses and realize that I don't want to go through to hell. I don't want to be taken away by these Yamadutas. I want to go back to Krishna. And so he repented and completely transformed his life. In the last stages of life, he went to Haridwar immediately after that and completely absorbed himself in Krishna consciousness. And the description is that the Vishnu Dutas came in the celestial airplane to take him back to Vaikuntha Lok. So yeah, it's a cumulative result of all the things we have done in previous lifetimes. So in this lifetime, we have to either suffer or enjoy accordingly. But if we take to Krishna consciousness, Krishna takes care of all our sinful reactions. We don't have to worry. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma suchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So Krishna's assurance is there. You just surrender to me and I'll take care of you. I will deal with all the sinful reactions. You won't have to deal with any of that. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Nice reflection, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Namrata Mataji, you want to go ahead?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Glories to Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Namrata. Please accept mine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our beloved Gurudev.
All glories to your wonderful services, Mataji.
His mercy upon me and all of the Vaishnavas' mercy upon me that I can speak something.
Mataji, I just wanted to share a reflection, and my not my experience, but experience of others which I have seen. So back when I was in Surat during the lockdown, I would have nearly seen two old age people who were nearly almost near to their bed dead during the lockdown of 2 years, and they were Vaishnavas. They had been living a very pious life. I won't call they were not involved in the Krishna conscious activities of ISKCON, but yes, they were living a pious life, a Vaishnava life. But somehow, when they were near to their deaths, in their bed dead, when their relatives were trying to, help them with the God name, with the Lord's name, and reading the Bhagavatam or uh, such things, reading Bhagavad Gita, or so they were their bodily pain was so intense that they were even reluctant to reading that, to hearing that thing at the end of their last moments. So it is so important to practice this for the whole life, because at the end time sometimes your body lead pains, and all this overcomes you so much. Take over you so much that you can even forget to take the name of God. So I was just wondering how important it is to practice the holy name for the whole life, so that
The whole life. Yes. Yes. Srila Prabhupada said that from the very beginning, children should be trained in Krishna consciousness so that they can reap the result at the end of life. In India, so many people say, oh, what are you doing all this? This is for old age. You should do this in old age. But where are the old age people capable of doing things suddenly? You can't suddenly change at 60 and 70 and 80 if you have not been doing something in the first 30, 40 years of your life. How suddenly you're going to take it up at 60 and 70? You're going to only continue whatever habits you have formed. In fact, it is harder and harder to change the older and older we get, because we become very fixed in our lifestyle, very fixed in our ideas and habits. It's very hard to change course. Very hard. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, from the very beginning of life, children should be trained in Krishna consciousness so that they don't waste their time in unnecessary pursuit, and they go straight for the goal of human life, which is to go back home, not take birth again. Anything else is a complete waste, because it will simply bring you back again into this material world. And again, you have to go through birth and disease and old age and death. And again, birth, disease, old age, death. We have done this so many millions of lifetimes. So you're absolutely correct that from the very beginning, one should practice Krishna consciousness so that at the end of life, actually all this life is a preparation for death. All this, whatever activities we are carrying out, is going to be tested at the time of death. So therefore, our consciousness will carry us into the next body, which means either another material body, or it will take us to Krishna. The choice is ours. So yeah, very important. From the very beginning, we must practice Krishna consciousness. Good point. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Mataji.
I want
There's one more experience which I just experienced yesterday, but I think I would wait for the devotees to ask their questions maybe later after that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So on the topic of this particular topic, like Namata Mataji just mentioned. So I heard in one lecture of Amog Leela Prabhuji's class. So he said that once we are in the old age, we are, and before nearing to the death moment, at that moment, we are not under our control. So this is all depends on the relatives around us, so who control the situation. And if they are not Krishna conscious, and you may not able to remember Krishna, because there will be lots sorts of things going on around us, even though, but you are not doing anything. You are just simply laying on the bed. Nothing is in your control, and you'll be so much distracted with all these relatives' faces all around you. And if they don't, if they are not Krishna conscious, they will not help you to remember Krishna before departing. That's what he mentioned. Like they can cause a lot of disturbance around you for not remembering Krishna.
Right? They start arguing and fighting. Who will get which property? I want that. Where is the locker key? How much gold is there? I didn't get this at the time of marriage, so now I must get it. All the family fights start right around the deathbed of that poor person who is dying. It actually happens. I've actually seen
yeah.
And it becomes so.
And suppose if you die in a hospital, so that is even pathetic. Like you can't even. Nothing is under control. Is under control of the nurses and the doctors there.
Yeah, whatever.
Even they don't allow any persons, any relative to come inside.
Right.
So it's very difficult.
Like a helpless baby. So that is why it's very important. I know Krishna conscious devotees who have made in their will, do not resuscitate, do not take me to hospital. I have very clear what I want. I'm doing this is to be donated, this is to be given. They have made clear instructions, everything, so that there's no ambiguity and that there is no challenge, and they can peacefully leave their bodies and not be subjected to all kinds of invasive procedures. Because the moment you go to hospital, they'll push, tubes down your nose, throat, this, that, every orifice. They'll keep giving you 100 injections. Once the body is worn out, how much it can be revived? One time you have to go. And so this reality we devotees face and understand. And so we are preparing nicely so that when the time comes, we are happy to give up this old, useless, painful body. And we are happy to go back to Krishna. But those who have not understood the value of Krishna consciousness, they will not be able to take to this process. And they will have to actually suffer tremendously at the time of death, because their attachments will be so strong and they won't be able to do a thing about it. So therefore the scriptures are there, and all this Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitam, all these books, why they have been given? Because Krishna doesn't want us to suffer like this. Ultimately, God, He takes care of us because we are His children. He wants us to have a beautiful life with Him in the spiritual world and not keep suffering endlessly. So therefore, we must really hear the message of the Gita and understand, you are not this body. Don't waste your time in the material world. Your business is to get out, not get entangled more. Yeah. And we need the association of devotees to remind us. Because otherwise, if we don't hear the philosophy, we will get caught by Maya. We need each other to remind us. Very good point.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namrata Mataji, I think you can go ahead with your next question.
Okay. Thank you. So, Mataji, yesterday I went to the temple and I met an old lady. She must be around 60, 62 or something like that. Maybe more than that. But she was around that age. And I think she was there for the disciple course. And she just, introduced herself and told a little about her. She was a widow and she lost her husband in around 2018. And how before that she lost her mother around 2 years back or so. So in the first incident, when she lost her mother, she told she was so disturbed and depressed. And then later, she came across Krishna consciousness somehow. and she started following little. She didn't actually came into the process at that time, but she started following certain things what Prabhupada said. And then it happened that in 2018, when her husband passed away, she said, I was supposed to be shattered at that time, but somehow uh, I could balance up my mind just by remembering what I studied in those times from the Prabhupada books. So this is such a wonderful thing that she shared, that I was supposed to be shattered because of my husband's death, but somehow it happened that I could handle myself. And
Yeah.
then after his husband's death, she started growing in Krishna consciousness, and I think in this year, yesterday, she came for the disciple course, and she is going to get initiated. At this age, I was just congratulating her, and I was just telling her it's commendable that at this age you got so flexible to take up something what Prabhupada has said, because it's not easy for old people to, because they have been going through for the entire life. They have their set of ideals for some religion, or maybe a spiritual life, or whatever they were in. So they don't change easily, and you changed your mentality and took up something is really commendable. So really congratulated her. So
Yeah, it's really commendable, because at 62 to take up Krishna consciousness, to start reading the books, to become so firm that she wants to follow that. Now she's getting initiated. That means she's chanting 16 rounds every day. It's not an easy thing to do. You're absolutely correct. Very commendable and great good fortune. She definitely has gained a lot of Srila Prabhupada's mercy to come at this age, Krishna consciousness.
yes,
It's a big thing.
yes, she chanted some Narsimha prayers. Also, many times she chanted Narsimha prayers. So I don't know what took her to this process, but yeah, I really felt that she is an example.
Yes, any age we can take it up, because once we realize the value, then
Yeah.
we very enthused about how
Yeah.
important this is and how it is saving us at every twist and turn. We are being saved from the calamitous situation of this material world, so that no matter what difficulties come, we can keep a balanced mind. I can honestly say that, but for Krishna consciousness, maybe I would have gone crazy, or I would be dead by now. I would have committed suicide. But because of Krishna consciousness, I was able to somehow hold myself together. So not a small thing. What we have been given is actually the highest of the high. There's nothing higher than Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, that's what I was telling her. I mean, I have back at my place. I mean, I have a lot of people who are like, who have been Vaishnavas the whole life, but still they're reluctant to the uh, concept of having a guru in their life. Then they have been speaking about Krishna all their life. They are pious, but still they're reluctant. They somehow their mind is not letting them enter this. I was like, you made it. So I was I was so happy for her.
Yes, she has made it. That's right. And that must be some great good fortune coming from her previous lifetime. Somewhere she has pleased Krishna, and now, even in this old age, Krishna doesn't forget. He's remembering his devotee and he's giving his mercy to her. That is
Yeah,
cool. Very nice. I'm so happy to hear this.
I was equally happy.
And as
Yeah.
for you, I want you to know that don't worry. Many of us have become devotees and our family members are not happy about it. I have experienced that. But take courage from the scriptures, because it said that even a neophyte devotee can liberate 3 generations of his forefathers, of her forefathers. Okay, Madhyamadikari, 14 generations. And of course, pure devotee, 21 generations. So even at the neophyte stage, all those connected with us are going to get the chance to become devotees. So don't worry. Krishna will not forget your relatives.
From this, what you told, Mataji, there was just a girl yesterday, just a girl beside me. I was just not commenting anything, but on this, what you said right now, that a neophyte could. There was a topic in yesterday's class about this thing, and the incident going on was the Bali Maharaj, and why Vaman Dev ended up asking for bhiksha only at Bali Maharaj place. So it was like
Right.
because of Prahlad Maharaj that Lord promised him that I'll liberate your 21 generations. So that is why. So the girl beside me, she had everyone in her family were devotees. She had a devotee. She was coming from a devotee family. So I was telling her that even a neophyte can, liberate three of their generations. And Madhyamadikari, I'm not sure, Mataji, 7 generations or 14 generations for Madhyamadikari. But
Maybe I got the number wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's 7. I don't remember.
yeah, it was in
Madhyamadikari
Chaitanya
is
Charitamrita.
14.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think it's 7 and 14.
Okay. So, an Uttamadikari can liberate 21 generations. So she was like, okay, everyone in our family are devotees. And I said, yeah, we are still at neophyte level. No, everyone at our family are devotees. I said, okay. She was like, okay, we are Uttamadikari. I said, okay. I'm very happy that you are in that state of mind. So I couldn't argue, to break her concept that, oh no, you are not a let her stay in that mindset. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah, Krishna will show.
Yes. Okay. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you for sharing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing, Namrata Mataji. It's very inspiring. Yeah. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Mataji, I think there are no more questions or comments. Sudha Mataji, you want to ask anything?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Sorry, Mataji, I cannot. I won't be able to turn on my camera.
No problem.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dhanvat Pranam, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj.
Please accept mine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Gurudev.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji, for the very wonderful class. Very nice class. So I was just thinking about the pastime of Ajamila Mataji. So how he fell down. So he got association of prostitute, bad association, then he fell down, right? But previously he was a pious person. He's born in a Brahmanical family and he's practicing devotional service, right? So I always think about he fell down because of just association, right? So why bad association? But he was practicing. He's such a pious person. He's practicing, and why? So easily he fell down. Just like I always think about that. Why? We are also practicing Krishna conscious when we are reading Prabhupada books, when we are in association, and why? It's so easy to when you're in the bad association, why we fell down so easily. Is it? I should understand that our devotional service sadhana is not very strong.
Well, in his case, he was so enamored of this prostitute, that he refused even good advice and wise counsel. One thing is to get into bad. See, we can all make mistakes. We can all, make some mistake. We can go off the path a little bit. But our well-wishers, when they give us good advice and they say, please don't do like this. This is dangerous for you. This is not good for you. Then if we repeatedly ignore those warnings, we turn a deaf ear and insist that I'm going to do this no matter what you say, then we are heading towards the wrong place against the wishes of those who are interested in our welfare. Then we cannot blame others, no? Mistake, we should at least have the good sense to listen to those who are our genuine well-wishers. In Jamil's case, he rejected his beautiful, chaste Brahmin wife to run a prostitute. He refused to take care of his mother and father, who were constantly telling him not to do like this. So when our uncontrolled mind and senses are just pulling us in the wrong direction, even if we have well-wishers telling us not to do, we will still do the wrong thing. And we will pay the price. After some time, he had to pay the price. The Yamadutas came to catch him. He was terrified. And then he repented so much. He said, I turned away my chaste, beautiful wife who was only interested in serving me nicely. I did not take care of my old parents who had lovingly raised me with such love and affection. He repented so much for his, evil ways, because when we go off track and indulge in all kinds of sinful things, we suffer tremendously, and then we have to pay the price also for all that. So he felt very bad at the end of the whole thing. And then when he took to Krishna consciousness, he was very serious. By that time, he understood the value of Krishna consciousness.
Okay.
So we may go off track, but we should always, be ready to come back, listening to our well-wishers, listening to the spiritual master, and refuse to do the wrong thing anymore. We can apologize and we can say, I'm sorry. And we can, but he persisted. Not only he refused to listen, he went on doing that. So much was with the prostitute all the time. He even married her, and he had one after the other 10 children with her. So very degraded life,
So Maya is so strong.
Maya is very strong. Yes, you're right. Maya is very strong. When we forget God, and we forget the instructions of God, we think we are God. I can do anything. I am all powerful. I can make things happen. I can get things. So he went into that mentality where he started behaving, I am the Lord and master of everything. I can get away with anything. I can do anything. And so he went completely off track. Because we are not God, only God is God. If we indulge in sinful activities, then we have to pay a very heavy price in the end. Tremendous suffering that comes with refusing to obey the laws of God. So he had to suffer a lot. And then finally he came to Krishna consciousness.
Okay, Mataji. So Ajamila's situation was so different, because when he did that offense, he was completely off track. He was in that...
Completely. And so, he had become completely degraded, and he refused any wise counsel, any good advice from others. He was so headstrong. He had become so headstrong because his lusty desires were so strong that nothing mattered except doing what he wanted to do.
Okay, got it. So, as I like the point also which you mentioned, in the mode of goodness, it's possible to remember Krishna. So Ajamila's situation is he was completely in the mode of ignorance. So that
and
made
passion.
him fall down. Passion.
Yes.
That made him fall down. So
that made him fall down from Brahminical practices. Yes. He completely gave up all his practices. He completely gave up his Vedic readings. He was a very well brought up Brahmin. He knew the scriptures. He was reading the scriptures. He was performing pujas. He gave up everything just to prostitute.
Okay.
And so he fell down very badly in devotional life.
So he was not chanting Mataji, just like Ajamila, before he did this offense. Was he chanting?
That particular description is not there that he was chanting the holy names, but that is part of the process. You know, in those days, the process of glorifying the Lord was there. So even though it's not specifically mentioned, all the people in those days were chanting the holy names. So it's that he would not have chanted the names of God.
Okay, Mataji. Okay, got it. Yeah, just trying to understand, like he was practicing devotion service and how, like, he fell down so badly. Yeah. But thank you so much.
Yes, it can happen. It can happen to any of us. That is why we have to be so careful and follow the instructions of the spiritual master, because the spiritual master is there to guide the disciple and keep the disciple safe on the path back to Godhead.
Yes, Mataji, very true.
This is very instructive for us to be very vigilant. And if you are track, then our God brothers and God sisters, Krishna's mercy, please let them save us. And of course, the spiritual master will be there to immediately correct us and bring us back to the right road.
Yes,
Very
Mataji.
much protected by ISKCON, by the whole institution, by so many spiritual masters, by the mercy of the God family. But we must listen also, no? If we don't listen, there are examples in our movement also of people who refuse to listen to Prabhupada and went completely off track.
Yes, Mataji. Very true. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much again for the wonderful class. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for very nice questions.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji. I guess we can end the call here. It's over an hour. So thank you so much once again for a wonderful discussion. Thank you, devotees, for joining. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. All glories to the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. My humble obeisances. Thank you so much.
Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sridevi Mataji ki jai.
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Mataji ki jai.
Samyadatri, Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
When you